Well, you may recall this nonsense from back in April. A church in San Jose was ordered to pay over $1 million in fines for, quote, breaking COVID rules. A church! This is after holding a number of religious services, protected under the First Amendment. They had unmasked patrons. How dare they? This is between November 20th and June 2021. Now, the church in California gained a recent measure of redemption, though, when a court of appeals dropped $200,000 from that fine. But an uphill battle is still on. The church is taking the fight to Santa Clara County with a federal lawsuit alleging that their patrons were spied on and tracked through secretive surveillance tactics. Joining me now to discuss, Mariah Gondero, Vice President and Legal Counsel for the nonprofit law firm Advocates for Faith and Freedom. Mariah, my bigger thing is, there's this thing. It's like the First Amendment, I think. It's the first one, which allows us, the free exercise of religion. How are they coming after you for this?
Yeah, it is quite astonishing because the United States Supreme Court has admonished California 5 times. But the reality is Santa Clara County thinks that they're kind of just their own gods. They've acted this way throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. They've implemented, they were the epicenter for the COVID-19 lockdown. This is where COVID-19 lockdown happened. And so for them, they have a lot of skin in the game. They don't want to let Calvary Chapel off the hook because they don't want to be wrong. They don't want the public to think that they were wrong. And so they want to hold Calvary Chapel San Jose accountable for holding maskless services during the pandemic, which, as you alluded to, is protected under the United States Constitution. But Santa Clara County seems to just disregard the First Amendment.
But also, even with all the data they have that shows that masks didn't do anything, they're still fighting this battle?
Yes, it has been the most drug out saga ever, and it is quite, it's almost unbelievable to me with all the data that they have, and the fact that even with their geo-tracking operation that they put on this church, they cannot trace one COVID-19 case to this church. Well, at the same time, they allowed a lot of different types of entities and, as you know, protesters to protest in the streets. But here they're so honed in on this church because they do not want to lose. They don't want the public to think that they can disobey their orders in the future.
Yeah, but the problem is at some point they're going to have to throw in the towel here. And I know the mask thing is ramping back up, but you talked about them literally spying. They use covert tactics. Are you talking about warrantless searches and putting people in the pews?
So what they used is a method called geofencing. This is what law enforcement uses oftentimes to create suspected criminals. A lot different than congregants exercising their First Amendment rights. And it's a method that allows law enforcement to draw a virtual bound between a specific geographic region. And here they put this geofence around the Calvary Chapel San Jose property, the church school, the sanctuary,
for not wearing
the
ministry.
Mask? Yes, the ministry housing, so they could see how many people were going in and out. And the goal of this was to show, for litigation purposes, that the church was this large super spreader and that the fines were justified because so many people were going in and out of the church, even though they can't trace a COVID-19 case to the church.
Yeah, well, the talking point for that 2000 Mules movie was that geofencing's not reliable. Maybe you guys should look into that one. My last question here. These people, is this like a city councilman? Are these elected officials going after you? Or are they bureaucrats?
These are, some of them are elected officials, but as you know, Dr. Sarah Cody, she was the health officer who started the COVID-19 lockdown, essentially. It started in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. As you know, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many unelected bureaucrats basically controlled the United States and ordered people on house arrest. And that is what we saw in Santa Clara County as well.
Oh, Mariah, I really hope keep us posted on this because this is absolute craziness. But I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that the Constitution rings true here because otherwise we're in deep trouble. Mariah, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Coming up.